Hello, I hope you are all doing alright. I'm going to show you 3 videos that have been published online that are available to anyone to see. And just to make things clear, I'm not monetized, okay? So I'm not earning money out of someone else's videos or whatever. I don't do that shit, okay? So I would like you to first watch these videos and then we will talk about it, okay? All right, just 1 minute, please. First, let's watch this one. Robert Ivy via Storyful. This is how quickly the world has rose in Texas. Just a simple a simple visual aid of the countless videos that anyone that was interested in it saw. And let me just interrupt to say this. To each and every one in Texas that suffered losses in these floods, you lost someone, you lost your property, you have my utmost respect, condolences, and especially solidarity. And if you want, Christian solidarity. I pray that you are all right. Okay? Regardless of what I am going to say about this subject and some others, in this video, I respect the loss of others. I saw this happening in a different scale in my home region. I saw people going through the same problems because of flash flooding. So, just this little interruption for us to understand this ourselves, okay? Don't mix the waters. Now, let's continue. Now, this is the next video that I want you to watch.
And as you've grown accustomed to my presentations over my 34 years in South Florida newscasts, confidently, I went on TV and I told you, it's going to turn. You don't need to worry. It is going to turn. And I am here to tell you that I'm not sure I can do that this year, because of the gutting, the sledgehammer attack on science in general, and I could talk about that for a long, long time, and how that is affecting the U.S. Leadership in science over many years, and how we're losing that leadership, and this is a multi-generational impact on science in this country.
Did you hear? He was talking about the cuts and the dismantle of this entire system that took generations to build. Remember this video. Now watch this one.
The floods, do you think that the federal government needs to hire back any of the meteorologists who were fired in the last few months?
I wouldn't know that. I really wouldn't. I would think not. This was a thing that happened in seconds. Nobody expected it. Nobody saw it. Very talented people are there, and they didn't see it. It's, I guess they said, once in 100 years. They've never seen anything like this. So I wouldn't, I mean, people are trying to blame the school. They're trying to blame the camp. They're trying to blame. It's just a horrible thing. But no, I wouldn't say that, no.
Now, that was the reaction of the president. One of his reactions to the Texas flooding. Okay, let's start from the beginning. When money was allocated by the Democratic government to Texas to invest in infrastructures to prevent this event not to prevent it from happening, but to allow people to be informed that this was happening, okay? Because the mechanism itself is, and I will talk about why I know, how I know how these things work. It's a mechanism to inform people that a flash flooding is coming, that it can come in at any minutes, with minutes warning, and they order people to get out of their houses, to go somewhere else, to a more protected area, to, for example, stop events like camping and all of that. Okay, that money, instead of spending it on that, the red state, Texas, spent it on giving the money to their people. I think they call it Obama money or some shit like that. I don't really recall, because I found it so disgusting. I did not want to. I just read the information, just saw it, and then I forgot it. Let's call it like this. This is the first point. Second point, the place where the camp, where so many children died, okay? I'm an European, okay? I don't say unalived, okay? Death and life, they are part of life itself, okay? When you die, you die. If you are assassinated, you are assassinated. If you die in something, you die. You are not unalived. That is ridiculous and infantile. And I'm not being monitored, so I don't care. But that camp where all of those children died, that Christian camp, there are two facts that I know about it. Number one, they should have not been allowed to camp in, in floodlands, but they were. Number two, multiple testimonies have came out and said that there was a lobby influencing the government, the local government, whatever, to allow them to build the camp in that site. And they were allowed to build the camp in that site. Okay? This is the first things you have to know. Now, let's talk about the cuts. So, Doge and other mechanisms in the state, the United States, I'm talking about the federal government, they simply gutted and made a clean cut in all prevention mechanisms. Like that meteorologist said, they have no way of knowing what is going to happen. And these things, these mechanisms, they are not that expensive if you do it right. As I told you, I know this because in the area where I lived, where I was born, where I lived up until my late 20s, the region around it is floodlands. We have one major river passing smack down in the middle of our, let's call it, council, near the town. That is a small town, but for our standards, it's not that small, around 6,000 people. Okay. And we also have a minor river, but that also floods a lot during when it rains. Okay. That in practice creates an island around the town. Okay. In practice, that is what happened. It's a highland, okay, a plateau surrounded by valleys in which you have the rivers, okay, basically, so that you understand the geography. Now, upstream, meaning in where the rivers are born, where they come from, there are lowlands. And in those lowlands, there are villages. And when I was a kid, I watched that area be flooded, and I was in the scouts, and we went there, and we saw how the strength of the waters even ate the pavement from the roads, and you could see the old Roman road of the old Roman road beneath it, and lakes of mud. People lost everything. Some died, and I watched as us as citizens organized to help, and how the state sent whatever means they could. And we were lucky because when it started to happen, the mechanisms to prevent it were already active. They warned people. So people were at least able, some of them did not make it because it was so quick, of course, but most of the people, there was a very low death count. I don't know how many people died. I think 2 or 3 persons, I don't know. In a universe of around 3,000 people, not bad. Bad for them, poor souls, but not bad. Okay? And then that flooding progressed south, and it flooded the lowlands near our town. And I remember my dad, as we were returning from giving aid with the scouts to those people, oh no, bringing sheets, bringing drinkable water, bringing food, okay, bringing shovels and all of that stuff that people would need to clean their houses, even helping with the cleaning. But we didn't even start to help with the cleaning because the municipal and national forces were already there, and they were already cleaning it. When we arrived, we already knew those flooding was going south. Was a matter of hours, okay? And the entire lowlands of the town flooded. And then all the men in town gathered alongside with the forces, with the police, with the municipality services, all of that, to take the animals from the flood areas and some people, and it all worked. And the basic mechanism was this: uh, how will I say this in English? Sorry, the words now I missed the words. Okay, the weather posts where they measured humidity and water flow, they were disposed all over the area, the flood area, and they were monitored daily by someone from the weather services. And as soon as they saw that is what's going to happen, they warn people. In those days, they used to warn people via the police. Today, for example, you get you get a message. Sorry, you get a message in your. You can see it. You get a message in your cell phone. Okay, you get a message in your cell phone warning you of any kind of danger. For example, right now, since we are still in a heat wave, this morning I received a message from the weather services for specifically for my area where my phone is pinged. I received the message telling me, look out, extreme heat, temperatures, this. If you are not feeling well, if you have issues with it, go to this site. And it's basically a kind of a medical emergency system where, for example, imagine an old person that starts feeling very ill with the heat and that needs help, and there's no one around to help him. That person on their phone, they can send a message, okay? Send a message and help will come. He will talk with a nurse, with a specialized person, and help will come. And all of this, of course, costs money. But the issue here is it's an essential service. You need to have an idea of how the weather is going to be. You cannot cut it blindly. For example, you go to a service and for example, and you have 10 people working in that service. And you know that that service can work perfectly with just 5 people. You take those 5 people that are working there and you put them to work in some other service. That is perfectly acceptable and needed because you don't play around with taxpayers' money. But to cut it, to allow people to work, to build things in floodlands, these villages and this town that I'm talking with you about, they exist here for, I can say, at least the place where I was born, it was already settled around 2000 years before Christ. There was already people living there. So, a long effing time. And the modern area of the town, it dates back to some 800 or 600 years before Christ. So it was already there. And they specifically built the urban nucleus of the town on a plateau at a distance from the floodlines. But up north, people, the villages were born with the roads in farmlands that existed. Then people started to settle. Okay, and of course in the past, people just looked at floods as something normal. Okay, occasionally it would flood, but the lands were very fertile. They produced a lot of yield, so people would continue to settle there because they needed to survive. Okay, frank, honest. But you remove your own ability of, number one, regulate so that people don't put themselves in danger for greed. And unfortunately, your children paid for it. Unfortunately. As I said in the beginning of the video, I know what I'm saying. And I would never politicize the death of a child, the death of anyone, the suffering of anyone. But you do that. And then you cut the mechanisms that allow you to monitor that system and that allow you to view it, to understand it, to prevent it, to know this is going to happen, evacuate everyone. Everyone, haul ass from there. Get out. And then you come into the news and you say, oh, but they are very good. This was very unfortunate. This happened all of the sudden. All of the sudden, we had no way of predicting it. Yes, you did. If it starts raining hard on the mountain, you know all of that water is coming down, boy. You know it's going to come via the river into the lowlands. You won't have flooding in the mountains. You will have flooding in the lowlands. And this is so simple, even an AI orangutan could understand it, for God's sakes. So don't come with that shit conversation to me. Sorry. And now you remove all of that. And now you cry. And they are going to do this to every disaster that happens in the United States and that has to be reported upon. And then you will have brilliant things like, for example, bringing relief to areas or states that voted for you and not give it to the other citizens. Why? the state has to provide support to all citizens. A president here, when he is elected, he stops being the president, a member of a party. He is the president of all parties, of all citizens. Just recently, the president that was elected by the Social Democrats, no, he was they endorsed his candidature, and he did not agree with the policy of the government, and he sent it to be analyzed by the Constitutional Tribunal. He did not approve it. He sent it there because he had doubts. Why? Because he's the president of all Portuguese. He heard all parties, including those in the opposition, before he took his decision. Because that is the nature of being the president, at least around here. You are not there to defend your party interests. You are there to defend the interests of everyone in the country, regardless of their political stance, and you are there to defend the Constitution. And you have a president that says things like this. You have a president that, if this happened and he was a decent person, he would say, we made a mistake with all of these cuts. Okay, I'm going to put the task force on it. We are going to revamp all of the mechanisms that we need so that this does not happen again. What did you have? You now you are completely defenseless. You have no mechanisms. You don't have a broader view, a federal view of the entire system. Because, like I told you, around here, multiple sources of information that are organized by one entity that has the ability of seeing the broader sense of things. When it comes to fires here, also the same. When it comes to any event, because all events like this one are unexpected, but they are predictable. And this is the key word here. You can predict these events. You can predict that there is a heat wave coming, that instead of lasting the normal week, it's going to last 2 weeks. A cold spell, a cold wind, a cold front comes in. You know temperatures are going to drop dramatically. You can predict it. If the effect is milder, no problem. But you warn people. Look, be careful, this might happen. And when an extreme event happens and you need to evacuate people, you have the ability to know what's coming. Did you saw the video about the of the river flooding? Okay, you can predict these things. Freak events happen, but one thing you could not predict, for example, would be imagine a small asteroid that you cannot detect with radars falls and it hits a nuclear power plant and it causes an explosion, an extreme event. This is something you cannot predict. Okay, this is something you cannot predict. Or suddenly a forest fire, instead of being a simple localized thing, it expands dramatically, and you were not predicting it was able to travel, let's call it like this, so fast. That's an unpredictable event. But the flooding, you can predict it. You know, if it starts to rain more, the floodlands are going to flood. So you, if you saw that starting to happen, immediately you would evacuate people and you would know what to do. You didn't. And people died. Children died. And instead of putting them into the spotlight and questioning why things did not work, I heard some people actually supporting this, and I questioned their mental sanity. Events like this happen. They can happen anywhere. They can happen here. They can happen where you live. They can happen in China. They can happen everywhere. But the key issue is here. You need to have mechanisms in place. And those mechanisms, they are always going to consume money and resources. But you need to have them in place. You need to have them there. Or else, situations like this that could have been perfectly avoidable, I have no doubt that casualties would happen. But for example, you would not have a Christian camp built on the floodland, hmm, because someone would tell them, no, you cannot build there. Build, build elsewhere. You cannot build anything here. Instead of that, you would have, in these events, unfortunately, people always perish, but you would have a minimal damage. Instead of that, you have a disaster. And if I was an American, I would be afraid of not having these things in place. I would actually be afraid. I would actually, if I could, move to areas that I knew would be more or less safe from these natural occurrences. Because if something Katrina level happens, instead of having the tragedy that that Katrina was, you will have that 10 times the worse. You will have it 10 times the worse. Because in the case of Katrina, there was a lot of incompetence, there was a lot of racial profiling, there was a lot of indifference, and a lot of lack of quick action. But you knew it was coming. And right now, if it happens, no one will know it. It is happening until it hits you smack down in the face. Well, sorry for being a bit gloom, but the subject of the video is gloom itself.